When Metaphor ReFantazio first launched, it felt like one of the biggest question marks in Atlus's modern history. It was the first major project from the Persona team since doing Persona and leaving the world of high school life behind. I mean, they weren't just changing settings, they were building an entirely new fantasy universe. Everything was a sprawling medieval world filled with political intrigue, kingdoms at war, and a surprisingly personal story about fear, anxiety, and self-belief. But now, 1 year later, how does Metaphor hold up? Did it live up to the hype, or did it get overshadowed by that Persona name that made it possible in the first place? So today I thought it would be great to take a look back at Metaphor now that it's pretty much just a few days out, having hit its 1 year birthday, what it represents for Atlus as a company that makes these kind of games, also what it may represent for JRPGs as a genre. But before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your thoughts down below. Did you like Metaphor? Are you enjoying it? Or are you still even thinking about the ending and maybe what that means for the future? So let's get to the video. At launch, Metaphor was surrounded by huge expectations. After all, this was the team behind some of the best Persona games. I mean, Persona really just redefined the JRPG landscape for an entire generation of players. Everything leading up to this game made it seem like this wasn't going to be a small-scale project. You had returning composers, character designers, everything looked a bit familiar, but still a little bit foreign in a way. This all promised to be a more grounded, mature fantasy world than anything Atlus had done with the Persona world before. When the reviews for Metaphor came in, they seemed to be pretty strong, but not necessarily unanimous. The style, the combat, the ambition was praised, but some pacing issues were kind of pointed out, and how its similarities to Persona could sometimes overshadow its own identity. Fans were split too. I mean, many people loved the bold shift into medieval fantasy, while others felt like the spirit of Persona, but that sense of daily life in a way was missing. Still, in those first few weeks on release, Metaphor had a real moment. I mean, it was everywhere. Combat animations were shared around, people praising the music, people breaking down the lore and the world design. It really felt like Atlus had pulled off something fresh. And as time passed, that first wave of excitement gave way to something even more interesting: reflection. So now, a year later, I think maybe we're starting to realize just how layered this game really was. One thing I will say that has really held up very well is the presentation. Visually, Metaphor is just stunning. Character design feels timeless. The world of Uchronia, I mean, it has this surreal mix of Gothic architecture, magic, political grandeur. It still looks really great a year later. The soundtrack deserves a special shout out as well. I mean, the way that choral arrangements were blended with ethereal strings just really gives this game a serious tone and sonic identity that's both otherworldly and almost deeply human in a way too. But what really makes Metaphor endure even now a year later is just how cohesive everything feels. Combat system with the archetypes and fusion-like mechanics still rewards experimentation. Each battle can feel like a puzzle, and even now you can still discover team builds that completely change how the game feels and plays. The sense of adventure, the feeling of crossing vast lands and uncovering the mysteries is one of the biggest strengths of this game. It's a game that really respects your curiosity as well. I mean, the world isn't just there to be explored, it's there to be understood. And in my opinion, that's really what makes it stick out in my mind a year later. It invites you to dig deeper both into its systems and its concepts. When it comes to story, I really think that I've come to appreciate Metaphor ReFantazio's narrative ambition over the last year. At launch, it was easy to view the story through like a Persona-shaped lens, but the chosen hero, the supporting cast with personal arcs, and the familiar rhythm of growth and discovery. But 1 year later, what stands out most is how Metaphor explored that tension between fear and aspiration on a big political scale. This game, I mean, it's a world where people are literally shaped by their anxieties, where kingdoms rise and fall based on emotion just as much as power. That gives the entire narrative a more mature, sometimes even somber tone. The idea that fear defines not only individuals, but entire nations, especially feels relevant in today's world. And that theme runs through every layer of the story. And the protagonist's journey mirrors that concept really well. I mean, you're not just a destined hero, you're a symbol of possibility. The game constantly challenges you to decide what kind of person you want to be and how your beliefs can shape the future of the realm in a way that's a little bit different than some of the Persona games, more personal, face your true self philosophy. But in Metaphor, you're not just confronting yourself, you're confronting society itself and some of the things that go along with that. And then there's the party. I mean, each companion has their own way of dealing with fear and ambition, and that gives the group dynamic, some serious depth. Let's look at Hulkenberg. I mean, her loyalty as a knight hides a deep uncertainty about her own ideals. Stroll's quiet confidence masks a struggle to find his place in a rigid world. And Heismay often may be a shield for insecurity. I mean, they're all flawed. They're all human, even if they're not technically human. And they're all constantly evolving. Not because the game tells you that they're all friends and stuff, but because you can actually see how they grow through conflict and shared experience, and especially doing the bonds as well with the character side stories. It really gives you insight on who these people are. You feel these characters learning to trust each other. And a year later, I still feel myself thinking about those subtle emotional beats. And even the side characters play a big role in world building, more than you might expect. NPCs, ordinary townfolk, all those people contribute to the sense that this world existed long before you arrived. And on a second playthrough, even if you wanted to, it would become more clear how carefully the story is constructed. There's hints and foreshadowing everywhere, small details that tie into the broader themes of legacy and destiny and inevitably change as well. And now it's not perfect. Some of the parts of the story do drag a little bit, especially when there are long stretches of exploration or anything else that can break the pacing of some of the big emotional moments. But when the story hits, it's pretty good. And the climactic moments, those revelations about the world, the meaning of fear, how each other's journey fits into it, anxiety, I mean, still lands now, maybe even more for me a year later. And maybe that's why the game is starting to age gracefully. It wasn't built for instant gratification. It was built for reflection. It's a story that kind of lingers, and one that you can come back to with new perspective. Now, before we get any further, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because almost 90% of the people that watch my channel on the regular are not subscribed. And if you want more content daily, you can follow me on Instagram, where I'm posting lots of fun flashback stuff, some personal stories about JRPGs and other things as well. Just think it's a great way to interact with you guys on the regular. So more Metaphor right now. And over the past year, I really was on the fence of this game. I liked it then. It wasn't my game of the year. It maybe didn't hit me right then, but I think it's really starting to grow on me, because even now, like a year later, I still hear the music when you're walking around town. I still hear the battle themes. It's just continuing to linger in my mind in a way that I wasn't really expecting. And that truly is the mark of something special. It's a game that really has grown on me over time, because this game wasn't afraid to take its time telling something meaningful. That being said, Metaphor, hasn't aged perfectly. The complexity of the archetype system, while fascinating, can still feel overwhelming to new people, coming to something like this. The menus, progression layers, skill trees sometimes clash with the game's pacing, and for as bold as the world building is, Metaphor occasionally leans a little bit too heavily on the structure that made Persona work. Boss phases, turn-based rituals, even some of the dialogue rhythms feel really familiar if you're coming from a Persona game. Me personally, I never played a Persona game before this, so this was all a new experience, but after having played something like Persona 3 Reload, I can definitely see where this game came from. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it really does keep Metaphor from completely stepping out of Persona's shadow. It's almost like watching a studio still negotiating between old habits and new ambitions. A year later, it's clear that Metaphor did succeed as a proof of concept, but maybe not a perfect execution. Still, I'd rather see a game swing big like this and still stumble rather than playing it a little too safe. That being said, I would really be interested in seeing Metaphor 2, Metaphor ReFantazio, if that's what you want to call it. I'm really interested in that game. Maybe more so than the first one, if that happens. One of the most interesting things about looking back at Metaphor now is seeing how the community has evolved. I mean, even in the months following release, it developed a incredibly passionate fan base. You still see the fan art, lore discussions, cosplay, theory videos, breaking down everything. I mean, people are still analyzing symbolism of certain bosses or debating what the ending truly means. And that passion really does matter. It's proof that Metaphor didn't just disappear into the sea of modern JRPGs or RPGs. It really stuck. It really landed. It may not have had the cultural explosion like Persona 5 or something like that had, but it's still quietly building a legacy as a game that dared to take some risks. It's the kind of RPG that people may discover years later and say, wait, how did I miss that when that came out? So in many ways, Metaphor feels like the next logical step in Atlus's evolution. It's proving that they can build something fresh outside of established IPs, and that's really exciting. It means that when we do eventually get something like Persona 6, they might carry some of those lessons about world building, tone, and narrative scope into that series as well, and that's really exciting. Where does Metaphor go from here? I mean, 1 year later, I'd be really interested to see what happens. A sequel isn't confirmed yet. It ended kind of open-endedly, but I think, honestly, this world is too rich to leave behind. There's still many corners of Ukraine still unexplored, and so many political and philosophical threads left dangling. It's a massive what if right now in 2025. So if Metaphor taught Atlus anything, it's that the fans are ready for something new, as long as it's authentic. The team proved that they can build compelling characters and systems without relying on the Persona formula. And if there's one thing I'd love to see, it's using this as a foundation for a new generation of games. Let's bring back these characters. Let's expand on them more. I really did enjoy some of the stories of this game and some of the characters along the way. 1 year later, Metaphor ReFantazio stands as one of those rare games that feels more interesting after the dust has settled. Certainly not flawless, and it's not for everybody, but it's rich, it's heartfelt, and daring in ways that few modern JRPGs have attempted. It's a game about fear, ambition, confronting your anxieties, and the courage to define yourself in an uncertain world. And that message 1 year later feels even more powerful now than it did at launch. So did Metaphor ReFantazio live up to the hype? Maybe not in the way that people expected, but it certainly carved out something arguably more important, its own identity. And that might just be the first step in something even greater. So with that being said, I'll ask you, how do you think Metaphor has held up over the last year? Did you love it when it released and you finished it? Has it held up pretty well in your mind, or has it been more of a slow burn like it has for me? As much as I enjoyed the game back then, I feel like I'm enjoying the thought of it a lot more. So I'd be really interested and open-minded for a potential sequel as well. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. Leave your thoughts down below, and we'll see you again on another video next week. Bye-bye.